The more you put in, the faster it's going to dry. Just make sure you mix it up a lot. Now you're going to get away with this as long as the client doesn't lick the patch and figure out that you put salt in. Alright, welcome back to another video. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to show you the easiest, the cheapest, and the quickest way to do a small repair. You can see behind me here, we've got a light and it's about to go. And this kind of repair, you can use it for any sized hole. It could be a fist sized hole, it could be a foot sized hole, it could be a basketball sized hole. It could be a 1 meter by 1 meter cutout or anything like that. It's pretty much all the same. You're gonna need some tools to start, and I'm gonna show you exactly what you need right here. Now, I've got a bunch of tools here. You don't need all of them, but what you will need is a piece of board, at least bigger than the hole. You're gonna need some screws. You're gonna need a drill. You're gonna need a knife. You're gonna need some tape. Now I've got a few different types of tape here. I prefer fiber fuse. It's very thin and strong and it doesn't bubble, and it's perfect for people just starting out because you never have to worry for it to bubble. This paper is good. It's good for internals and running through machines and that sort of thing. But on some repairs, when they get really messy, if you don't pre-fill and let it dry, this can actually bubble, and especially if you don't have mud underneath the tape, that can also lead to a bubble. This mesh, I don't use it for anything, and you shouldn't either. I'm just gonna chuck that out right now. A few other things that might help when you're doing larger repairs are obviously a tape measure, a chalk line. Instead of using a knife or a saw, which you'll see me use shortly, you can use one of these, and this is good because you have a blade here and you can adjust the depth so you don't hit any cables, and that can totally happen. I've used that and I've gone straight over where cables are, and if I was using a knife or if the blade was sticking out a bit too far, definitely would have nicked the cable, and that can be a problem. Another little tip is some people use, we have one of my favorite types of mud here. It's a pre-mixed compound, air drying, and this is multi-purpose, so you might want to pick this up, but you do not want to use this for, this is ready-made. You do not want to use this for taping in a small patch because it's going to take you forever and a day for it to dry and go over it again. I'm using corner cement. It's like a powdered mix. Dries in 45 minutes. It's super strong, and then you can actually even make it dry even quicker by using some kind of accelerant. If you don't have accelerant, you can also use salt. So that's a handy tip. I did that for a long time. Just add a bit of salt, mix it up with the mix, and leave some aside for the second coat. Mix up the first coat. Also, for bigger patches, you might want to use a laser level, just so you can get it nice and square. Get your cutout square so you don't leave big gaps and that sort of thing. You're also going to need some back blocking timber, which we'll put either side, at least 2 pieces on a little square hole like that. And if you're doing a big cutout, you might want to, get something the same size as your framing, like 70 by 35 millimeter thick timber is what we use in Australia most of the time. So we've got the timber, we've got everything, we've got a tape measure. Actually, we're not even going to use a tape measure for that. I'm going to show you the quickest way right now to do it, and let's get it started. Okay, so all of this, we're not going to need all of this. This goes back in the ceiling, that goes in the ceiling. Just get a rough size. Now you don't want to, unless there's a disc, which sometimes there is when there's cutouts like this, they'll leave it, the piece that they cut out up in the ceiling. Unless there's that, you really want to cut it into a square and just make it as big as what you actually need to. So we're going to go down there like that. Down there like that. And that big. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. When you're cutting plasterboard or drywall, you just have to score the paper, and then you can snap it, and then it's neater if you cut from the back like that. Snap it. Okay, so we've got our piece pretty close to our size. Just get a pencil, trace around it. Then get your saw. Make sure there's no cables in the way. Once that's done, make sure your piece fits. Alright. Yep. Just fits in there nicely. Your next step will be to put some timber in. Make sure it's sitting flat. Leave a little bit either side because you're going to be screwing in there. You don't want it too close to the edge. When you are screwing, you want to be pulling down on it at the same time. You don't want to just be putting a screw in and not holding that together, because then that'll just come up and separate. Now that the timber is in, you can slide your piece in. And if you didn't cut it out too well, like I didn't, don't force it in because you don't want to break these corners. Doesn't really matter, but just give it a little assistance. Get your knife in there, do that. And you got your piece ready to go. Next you want to add some screws. At least one in every corner. Okay, that's step one of the patch. Make sure there's nothing sticking out. Get any loose paper or anything like that around it. Make sure all the screws are in, not sticking out, and that's good. That's the first step. Now let's mix up some mud. If you're doing a larger repair, you want to get a bigger bucket, clean bucket, everything like that. This is a really small repair, so I'm just using like a dirty bucket. Always put the water in first. And sprinkle it in. It's a good idea to make sure that mix it gradually. You don't want it to dry out as you're mixing it. Then add water, sometimes it can cause a bit of a problem. And that'll pretty much do us. Now remember, I'm going to keep this for the first and second coats. So we want to take some out. And because we're doing this demo as cheap and quickly as we can, that's about all we're going to need for this first coat. We're going to use salt. How much do you put in? As much as you want. Really. The more you put in, the faster it's going to dry. Just make sure you mix it up a lot. Now you're going to get away with this as long as the client doesn't lick the patch and figure out that you put salt in. That is going to make it dry much faster. And we've still got some for the second coat. Now what you want to do is, I prefer the 6-inch blade. It's my good all-rounder. I use it for nearly everything, and especially use it for taping in. You want to push the mud in the gap like that. Push it in there. The more you get in there, the better. And then even it out a little bit. Make sure it's all covered. Something like that. Now, like I said, I use fiber fuse. You can cut it easy. Stick it on there and just pull like that. You always want sort of some mud underneath the tape. And when you drag it, it's a good idea to put your finger there and pull it like so. Line it up. Make sure it's all flat. Looking pretty good. Not. We're not going to leave it like that just yet. Now I've got a larger blade here, and I'm just going to fill up the middle. Remember, we're doing 2 more coats over the top of this, so it doesn't have to be perfect just yet. I just like to get it filled. I'm happy with that. That's it. Now, because we put salt in that, that is going to dry in half the time. We'll be able to second coat it quicker. If you were using this, you'd have to come back overnight. Alright, so this is dry enough for us. We're just going to knock any high points off. Be nice and careful because it's not 100% dry yet. We're not painting it today, so don't worry too much. This part's easy. Just fill it up again. Remember, it gets one more over the top. Alright, wait another 25 minutes and you can top coat it. Just careful of these kind of edges. That's fine. This is well and truly dry now. Give it one last scrape down. Looking nice and flat. Ready for the top coat. Now, this is the only time when I use this pre-mixed. It's for the top coat. I don't tape with it personally. If you do, you can't second coat the same day. You only got to pull out what we need because I don't like to put anything back. That's all we need. Stick the lid back on. Just like the second coat. You want to go over a little bit wider than you went before. Try and feather your edges. That'll do it. A little bit of a sand on the edges. You can even hold it like that and get that edge a bit smoother. Let's check it out. And that's how you fill a little hole in your ceiling or your wall. It could be a big hole. It's the same thing. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped. If it did help, make sure you hit the like button, and I'll see you on the next video.